I think the main thing with the anavar was the fact that it's so expensive right now.
I mean, what am I supposed to say to that? Does anyone not think that Remington can afford it? Coach Greg, and today's video is on Remington Dane's brand new cycle. He goes into detail with Ryan Akram explaining exactly what he's going to take. I'm going to critique what he's taking, explain is the information correct, is it not, and see, is this a good cycle that you yourself could be doing?
My goal with this cycle is, I mean, in the past I've made a lot of videos about old cycles and stuff I've done. There's a video I did when was that? Like 3 years ago when I talked about when I finally came off all the steroids.
Remington is very open about what he's taken in the past. He's abused PEDs in the past, didn't like the side effects.
A lot of my bad side effects that I got, the worst one being acne for me, water retention, I would bloat real bad. That was mainly because, honestly, a lot of those times, like when I would do those cycles, my goal was to get as big as possible and I wasn't being strict with my diet.
Since then, he's taken SARMs on and off, and as of late, he's been on 150 milligrams of HRT per week. And just for reference, I'm on 120 milligrams. So myself and Remington are on approximately the same dose of HRT. At his best in the past, when abusing PEDs, test, trend, you name it, he was 168 pounds, and in their words, just under 10% body fat. Looking amazing. He's about 5'10", 168 pounds, look great. Currently, 174 pounds, and in their words, about 11 or 12%, so not too far off. Ryan Akram says he's at a very good starting point. He's lean and about to do a cycle, and why? Because he wants to.
Let's do it!
Just remember, never break the law and don't do anything without the advice of a doctor. I am not a doctor. Remington and Akram, they're not doctors, so don't listen and copy exactly what they're doing. Please always get the advice of a doctor.
So my goal is if I can get to that level of leanness, if I can get single digit body fat, but be in better shape than that, way more than that. I want to say right around then I weighed around like 100. I think my lowest, we looked at it the other day, my lowest weight was 168 pounds.
A perfectly reasonable goal when on PEDs. To do this natural in your 30s, this would likely take a few years. But because he's using PEDs, it dramatically speeds up the rate of muscle protein synthesis. He's going to build muscle at an accelerated rate, likely at least 10 times quicker than he would without the extra PEDs.
My days of doing like crazy steroid cycles, you know, where there's like tren out the ass, we got just all this crazy like all this crazy shit. That's not like my goal anymore with this.
He's worried about his health. He's getting older. He doesn't want to put his body through too much damage. But listen, this cycle in most people's mind is in fact abusive. In comparison to previous cycles, he might not think it is, but listen, it's not something you should do if your health is of a priority.
So we're gonna have him start at a testy 500 milligrams per week, and that will be week 1 through week 14. This is gonna be a 14-week cycle.
So for 14 weeks, the first compound he's gonna be using is testosterone, 500 milligrams a week, 250 milligrams twice a week. That alone would be enough. Just 500 milligrams of test twice a week in comparison to only doing 150 is going to produce dramatic results.
From them, we're gonna keep it simple and throw in MAST, which is Masteron Inostate, which is gonna be a long ester. It'll go right in with his testosterone, Monday, Thursday, super easy.
So the grand total of injectables, 1,000 milligrams a week.
So he's not doing a whole lot of aromasin right now with his TRT. What are you doing, just twice a week?
Yeah, twice a week, it's 12.5 mg?
Yeah, 12.5 milligrams is a typical dose of aromasin.
To combat the estrogenic side effects of the testosterone, he's also adding in 12.5 milligrams of aromasin twice a week. I think that's a great idea. I think at 500 milligrams, especially considering he had a lot of water retention in the past, he needs something to combat the estrogenic side effects that are going to occur from using 500 milligrams of test. At 150 milligrams, which is HRT for Remington, he likely doesn't need this, but at 500 milligrams a week, the chance of him not experiencing bloating or water retention, well, they're very low, so the aromasin is going to help him with that.
And what's the MAST dose exactly? How much MAST?
So we're gonna have right there 1:1 to testosterone. So,
and the Masteron that's added, it does not convert to estrogen while it adds to the strength of the cycle. It's a lot more powerful to do 1,000 milligrams a week than only 500. And the added Masteron that he's adding, it's gonna add a lot of quality muscle to his physique. Not watery muscle, but dry, lean tissue. And Masteron, it's about 2/3 as strong as testosterone. So adding in 500 milligrams of Masteron, it's going to add in the same amount of muscle roughly as if he added 300 to 350 milligrams of test.
So it's only going to be a 10-week cycle of MAST for him, week 5 through week 14, ending right when he ends his test.
And why? Well, testosterone for the first 4 weeks, it's going to do more than enough. It's going to offer plenty of muscle building power.
We could. There's nothing wrong with that. This is just another way of doing things. I think a lot of people fail to realize there are many ways to do this.
And so by week 5, he's adding in Masteron in order to boost the cycle just that much more.
He's not going to throw on very much size at all from the MAST. It's mostly going to be a hardener, really good at that dense muscle look. So that is why we are having this in there.
And that's actually a myth. People who think that Masteron doesn't add a lot of muscle, that it's just a hardener, that it only makes you look leaner, harder, drier.
It's mostly going to be a hardener, really good at that dense muscle look.
But it's not true. Masteron is a very potent anabolic steroid. It's similar to primobolan. It's a long ester to enthate, and so it's going to take a few days to build up in his system, and over several weeks, it's going to compound on itself and build up so that his blood levels will reach peak saturation probably around week 6. But trust me, Masteron is going to kick in and start working within a few days of injection. He's going to notice the increase in energy, bigger pumps, aggression, and so on from the Masteron within a few days.
MAST is essentially useless unless you're already lean enough.
This is completely false information. Trust me, if you're overweight, you did a cycle of Masteron at 500 milligrams a week, and you go and check yourself out 12 weeks from now, you're going to be way stronger, way bigger, have way more muscle. It's not just a hardener. It's not just cosmetic. Sure, it hardens the muscle, makes it look better, but also makes it bigger. It's 2/3 as strong as testosterone.
I hate acne, and that was the worst part about my other cycles when my estrogen would be through the roof, is I would just break out so bad with terrible pimples. And when you're on camera and you're editing footage of yourself all day, maybe it's a blessing I have the beard.
He just hates getting acne. He's doing his shots Monday and Thursday. That means 3 days apart and then 4 days apart. It's not every 3.5 days, it's every 3 days and 4 days. That does not allow for as stable of blood levels. So what could he do to combat this? Do his shots every 2 days. The more frequent you do your shots, the more stable your blood levels are going to be.
So he did get pre-cycle blood work. Everything looks just fine. Now the only thing with his pre-cycle blood work,
he did notice he had an elevated hematocrit, too many red blood cells, but he's on HRT and that's quite normal. And so they're going to monitor this during the cycle to ensure it doesn't go too high. They're also going to be donating blood to reduce the hematocrit. So please ask your doctor if that's something that you need to do when you do your own cycle.
And just to see what his blood work looks like, while he's on cycle, I would say week 8 or so, we'll get some more done.
It's always a good idea to get your blood work done midway through a cycle just to see, are you handling it well? Are you healthy? Do you need to make changes?
And normally on my old cycles, I was always taking anavar, which he advised me not to. We're gonna do something a little different this time around. I think the main thing with the anavar was the fact that it's so expensive right now.
Remington drives a G-Wagon, has a brand new home, and makes a considerably comfortable living on YouTube. And instead of that, guess what he's taking instead? Winstrol. And do you know how I describe Winstrol? Winstrol is poor man's anavar. It does essentially the same thing, but it's not as healthy. So given the fact that Remington cares more about his health now, he's using Masteron instead of Tren, which is a smarter choice, but he's opting to use Winstrol instead of anavar. Makes no sense. Just to save a couple $100 doesn't make sense. I can understand if you can't afford it, I get it, but Remington, pretty sure he can afford it.
It's very expensive.
Yeah.
So we're looking at $300 just for anavar.
It's a couple $100 more to do something healthier and safer, but you opt not to save a couple $100. Is health not the most important thing? I can't imagine not taking the healthier item, even if it was a couple of $1,000 more. When you have the money, is health not the most important thing? So it blows my mind that he wants to be healthy, but he's doing this cycle which he thinks is healthy, but it's not. If I were to do a professional bodybuilding contest right now, I wouldn't do a cycle this strong. So if I don't need something this strong to put on muscle, why does Remington need to do such a strong cycle? And I know when you've done stronger cycles in the past, you're kind of brainwashed into thinking that 1,000 milligrams a week is not an abusive cycle, but it absolutely is. It's not healthy in the slightest. And here's the thing, this cycle, it's 14 weeks. He's going to put on a significant amount of muscle. I think he's going to get his goals. But guess what? The cycle, it's then going to come to an end and he's going to have to stop, lower the dose. And what do you think is going to happen to those gains after he stops? Going to lose them. So what is the point? Oftentimes it's fun to be on PDs, to take these things, to grow muscle, but all good things, they come to an end. That's why I personally think that HRT, much smarter decision. You slowly build muscle over the long term, but guess what? You keep that muscle and it's healthier. Blasting and cruising is not healthy. And I'm not being a hypocrite. I know I've done so many times in the past. But just because I've done that doesn't mean that I think it's healthy to do so. I don't want to bullshit you. I don't want you to think that 1,000 milligrams a week with 40 milligrams of Winstrol a day is a healthy cycle. It is not. It is an abusive cycle, and everyone needs to know that.
A lot of guys are not fan of Winstrols. It can
Cookbook.
Your cholesterol. It's going to be rough on your joints.
I mean, what am I supposed to say to that? Does anyone not think that Remington can afford it? I don't get it. Even if the Winstrol was free, I'd rather pay the $125 for 50 25 milligram tabs than to get the free Winstrol that he knows is bad for your cholesterol, bad for your heart, bad for everything. But I get it. Everyone has that choice. You can use whatever you want. But based on him saying, I want to be healthier, I don't think this is the smart choice for him.
We're going to keep it short. It's going to be week 8 through 14, not stupid crazy, and we're not going to blow the dosage up. We're not doing 75 milligrams per 100.
But I'm glad to see he's saving the Winstrol for halfway through the cycle, because when you take PDs, the first half of the cycle, the gains, they come real quick. But halfway through your cycle, the gains, they slow down. And if you don't add something to the cycle or increase the doses, the gains are going to slow down dramatically. If you do a 14-week cycle from start to end on the same thing, you're going to gain a lot more muscle the first half than you will in the second half. That's why people often add things at the end of a cycle.
And my goal is to be in the best shape I've ever been in. I want to bring the best physique,
So if you have a goal to do a bodybuilding show and use PDs, you do a cycle, you're on a cut, this is exactly the type of thing that somebody would do in preparation for that. But remember, after the competition is over, you can't stay on that diet. You're too lean. It's not healthy. And you can't keep using those PDs because also it's not healthy. So after the 14-week cycle is over, you have to be prepared mentally that you're going to gain body fat and lose muscle. It's not easy to handle. So hopefully he can get his goals. Hopefully he does so in a healthy way. And he can go on HRT and maintain a healthy physique for the rest of his life.
That's what we're doing here. And like I said, nothing crazy about this cycle. I mean, I wouldn't call anything about it super crazy.
It is crazy. I mean, unless you're comparing yourself to a big Ramy or a professional bodybuilder cycle or someone that's really, really being crazily abusive, it might seem minor, but this is not a minor cycle in the least.
At the end of the day, we are still just gym bros taking this shit to go to the gym and look good.
Right.
But at the same time, it doesn't matter if you're competing. It doesn't matter if you're just a gym rat.
But literally, he could have taken exactly half of what he's doing, and it would have still offered amazing results. And what do I mean by half? I mean half as much Test, 250, half as much Masteron, 250, half as much Winstrol, 20. That would still be an effective cycle for someone looking to put on the kind of muscle that Remington wants to do and burn a few percentage points of body fat.
These are opinions. These are my opinions. These are his opinions. You don't like his opinion. You don't like my opinion. You don't gotta watch.
And remember, what I'm saying is my opinion, just like what they're saying, that's their opinion. We're just giving you opinions on a cycle. It may or may not be crazy, depending on what your definition of crazy is. But if your health is paramount, it's important to you, this cycle is way too high dosed to be healthy. Don't forget, harder than last time supplements. Please click the link in the description. I'm also looking for ambassadors to help sell and promote the products, and you will be paid for this. Also have multiple cookbooks. Don't forget to pick up one of those. Also, training book, training plans by me and my team. And don't forget to subscribe and click the bell button. And until next time, I am out.